Hello and welcome to Somm Scents. This is a podcast that focuses on perfume and all things olfactive. With me, I'm Rachel K. I'm a certified sommelier, and we have lots of amazing guests. And today we have Rich Mitch. You might know him also as Duck, who does live streams on YouTube and is a great part of our fragrance community. A real leader, has lots of wisdom, and is here to join us today. Hey, Rich, how's it going?
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yes, I am excited to talk to you today as well. The very first podcast, the first of many, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm so excited. And we're going to talk today a little bit about, speaking of it being a new podcast, we're going to be talking about some new fragrances that have just come out. I know that you're really excited about a few of them. Would you like to tell us? Why don't we start actually with what scent are you wearing today? And then after that, any new fragrance that you'd like to talk about?
Okay, so my scent of the day today is, my sort of axiom for what fragrance I'm going to wear on any particular day is the weather. And if you couldn't already tell, I live in Britain, Northern England,
Mm,
sorry.
yeah.
And the weather is as the weather does. The weather just does whatever it wants from day to day, regardless of the weather forecast and what it should be doing at any particular month or season of the year. Today, on the 6th of June, it has been overcast, grey, and miserable. It would not be out of place in October.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I have just moved all of my summer fragrances to the fall, where I can easily reach for them. Um, so that is British weather to a T. It was clearly watching and clearly waiting because for the last 2 weeks it's been nothing but glorious wall-to-wall sunshine. Um, so I fortunately have my creeds, of which I have a few, but not all. Not Mr. Aventus. I have today donned Himalaya, which
Oh,
is indeed, which is a sort of sandalwood, flinty, round, musky, slightly citric thing. It's very complex. It's light enough to be worn on a cool day in June, but it's also got enough depth to justify wearing it when there is like overcast cloud in the sky,
mm.
So what are you wearing today?
That sounds lovely, Duck. And so for here, we have kind of similar weather in terms of it being just unexpected all the time in the Midwest, where it just changes constantly. But
Mm,
today is actually pretty predictable. Hot summer weather. We have 88 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius. Sorry,
oh,
maybe close to 40, if I'm guessing.
I
Maybe
wouldn't have
30.
thought it'd be close. I wouldn't have thought it'd be 40. 40 is the hottest day ever in Britain.
Oh, okay, then maybe like 33-ish, something like that. Like,
Okay.
um, yeah,
I will
maybe
look that
33,
up.
35. Yeah, so it's 88 in Fahrenheit. And so it's hot, but it's not sweltering, right? It's
Okay.
just above, it's hot, just above comfortable, right? So you don't want to
Got
be
you.
outside all day, but it's good and warm, hot summer weather, right?
Got you.
Um,
Like 31.1 degrees Celsius,
oh,
apparently.
okay, thank you. All right, so it's about 31 degrees Celsius. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so I'm wearing one of my, and I kind of did what you did. I was inspired by your video actually to move some of my summer fragrances to the front of my shelves. And I'm
Ah,
wearing a Chanel, it's Cristal Eau Vert, and it's a
yes.
floral green fragrance. It was created in 2009 by Jacques Polge. It has Amalfi lemon and bergamot in the opening. Middle notes are neroli and magnolia, and the base notes are jasmine, iris, and musk. So you have those bright citrus notes. It's very citric, very citrus forward, with some light floralcy and just the tiniest bit of musk. So it really is that bright, refreshing, cooling kind of aspect. It's close to a cologne almost, but
Yeah.
marketed towards women. But it's beautiful.
Yeah. I actually have a bottle in a bag. I bought it for a friend because for a while there it was very, very difficult to find in the shops.
Yeah.
And there were rumors going around it being discontinued. And my friend was flapping and thought, what will become of me? My Cristal Overt has left me, and Chanel never discontinued the fragrances. They make a big thing of it. But it couldn't be found. And so I found one. and I bought it for them. And then I got in touch with them and they were like, "Oh no, it's all right. I found like 4 or 5 bottles of duty free and I bought them all." And I was like, "Right,
Oh,
cheers for that." So now I have a bottle of Cristal Overt and it's
oh,
just
it's
sitting in the
fabulous.
bag. I think I'm going to crack it open and just use it myself actually because it really is very nice.
Yeah, it does. It has that just that pitch perfect Chanel kind of glamour, but it's just it's so much like a cologne, right? It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like a cologne with a touch of floralcy, right? So
Yes,
it's really lovely.
it is.
Fantastic. And so I know before we got started, Doc, you were telling me you were so excited about some new fragrances. May I ask you to share with our audience perhaps one of those?
Yes. So I am a big sampler because over the last few years, my interest in fragrances is centered more around older releases, the old style of perfume. The modern style isn't really for me. I've always been like I was going to say a backward thinking person there, but I mean, like I've always sort of like looked backwards for like inspiration. I find it quite grounding, and the good thing about history is it's very because you always know what happens next, you
Yeah.
know, and so you can pick and choose which bits that you like and stuff. And I have transferred that to my perfume appreciation mindset. And there are some brands today that I feel like I can trust, and there's some brands I feel like I can't trust. And then there are some brands I feel like sometimes I can trust and sometimes I can't trust.
Mm,
Recently, so modern releases aren't really my they're not my go-to. I don't get hyped as the kids say for modern releases and things. I like to look to the past and see what's worked before. I like the way that perfumes were made in the past. I like the type of smells that were more prevalent in the past compared to what they are today, more chypres, more fougères, um, those type of fragrances, big lavenders and big vetivers and different, lots of different things. I've got quite a broad taste, but most of it like originates in the past. Um, with that in mind, there has been a couple of releases this year, which hasn't happened for a while, that have got me quite excited. And I have samples of a couple of them right here in front of me. The first, as we record this on the 6th of June, I believe has been released today. And it is from the brand of Les Indemnidables. And that
fabulous.
is, it is, they are fabulous. Absolutely, they are. The perfume is called Patchouli Noisette. And I, when they released their last perfume, Ambre Supreme, they sent out I think there were about 7 mils. Pardon me. I think there were about 7 mils of in like a travel atomizer type thing. And I got in touch with Valerie because I knew this was being released. I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook, don't have any social media apart from YouTube. And I had been informed reliably by the people who are there that this was being released very soon. So last week I emailed Valerie and I said, "Oh, is there any chance I could buy a sample from you?" And she said, "No, I'll do you one better. I'll send you another one of those travel atomizers with the two ingredients that they feature." And I was like, "Oh, thank you very much." Over the weekend, I was convinced that Valerie had forgotten all about little old Rich Mitch, and I got in touch with Brooke from Saint Celia, and I said, "Brooke, I know you're now the British stockist for Les Indemnidables. Is there any chance I could buy a sample of you?" And she said, "Well, um, I said I also wanted to buy some samples by a house called Rubini." And she said, "If you buy the sample set of the House of Rubini, I'll send you a sample with it." All of this is leading up to the fact that all of this arrived today.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
yes, so I got the sample from Brooke, and Valerie hadn't forgot about little old Rich Mitch. and that arrived as well with the two ingredients in little pots. They did the same with Ambra Supreme. I don't know if did you ever get that, the little travel atomizer with the ambergris tincture that they sent out?
So I didn't opt for that option, which is fabulous. Instead, I actually got the materials kit where they have the star material in wax, right? In like
Yes, I've got that.
which I love. But what do you think it's worth it to get the material in the little in liquid form as well as having that material sample kit? What do you think about
So
both?
I bought the material sample kit, and I must admit, I wouldn't mind if that was about half the price. I mean,
Mm,
you wouldn't mind if anything was half the price, would
of
you? I mean,
course.
but
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's that was £180 for me, and I thought that's a lot of money for sampling individual individual in wax form. It's very novel and it's interesting. It's innovative. I beg your pardon. And the brand is definitely for the perfume lover. Um, but I thought that they're asking a lot of money for what that is. I do think though, because the ambergris tincture isn't in that set,
Yeah.
um, that is worth acquiring if at all possible. And I don't know if they're going to make these two ingredients, because has your kit got two spare? Has your
It
kit
does.
got two spare? Yeah, mine's got that as well. Um, and I thought that would be worth them releasing those two wax things for, and they could send them to people who have purchased the perfume as like a goodwill thing. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that should happen, but I think
Yeah.
it would be nice if it did. You know?
That would be fabulous. And it's, because I wonder, I don't tend to wear the the wax, like that
Yeah,
material, like, because I feel like I feel like with the tincture, you could probably, layer those materials on if you wanted to and wear that really beautifully. Whereas with the wax or the butter, it's I don't tend to wear it, right? Like I'll smell it
yeah.
for almost research or education purposes, but I don't tend to actually enjoy it as a fragrant material to wear every day. So I'm thinking that the liquid might actually be, more useful.
Yes, I think that's a fair thing to say. I would agree with that. I've put the wax things on my skin maybe 3 or 4 times, like not all of them. There's one, the mint. The mint is absolutely beautiful when it's. I think it's sure it's mint. It could be is there a geranium in there?
I
I've
believe
actually
there is a geranium. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be the geranium I'm talking about rather than the mint. Um,
Do you want me to grab it?
I've got mine here as well, actually. Is it in Oriental Velour? Let's have a look. So you are. Let's have a look here. Got the little booklet.
Now we're both opening ours up.
Yes, yes, that's right. Got number 10, Vetiver Oil Special, Green Mandarin, Rose de Messina. Ah, it's from Rose de Jamal. It is a mint.
Is a mint, yeah.
Yes, Rose
And it
de
looks like
Jamal is mint.
there is an ambergris tincture here.
Is there?
Yeah, number 16
Natural ambergris ultra sorry. Oh my god, you're right.
from Amber
Huh.
Supreme. Yeah. So I feel like 19 and 20, you would think, yeah, maybe it should be, maybe they should either have an offering for people to purchase it and complete the kit, or maybe send it out someday. Who knows?
Yeah. I would agree with that. Like if you bought from the website, you would get like a pair of the waxes, you know what I mean? That would be good. But the Ambra Supreme, I did smell the ambergris tincture there. It doesn't half smell like bad breath. I'm
Yeah.
getting halitosis from that.
Halitosis. Yeah.
Absolutely, that is not great. And yet, when it's in a fragrance, it's absolutely glorious.
Magical. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's something about it too, like, and this probably has to do just with my grandparents and the fragrances they wore, but there's something about it that I that makes me smell my grandparents' closet. They had some really old fur coats that had just kind of been in there that they hadn't worn in years and years and years, and something about it makes me smell those really old fur coats that have been in storage for a long time, like the skin of the animals,
Yeah,
after they've been made into coats, and there's something just a little bit of that in there too, um,
yeah.
which is it just brings back memories, like happy memories for me, but you're right, there's definitely some halitosis in there too.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's got that kind of animalic kind of life,
Yeah,
like byproduct of life kind of thing about it. This was once alive and is no longer.
yeah,
Or yeah, it's there's definitely something of that about it. The kind of the nature of what was I going to say? I was going to say like the nature of man, but it's not. It's like a more foundational nature. You
mhm,
know,
yeah, the
it's
cycle
it's
of
got that.
life, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, birth, life, death, and everything in between.
Absolutely. And I wonder if I should, now that I have them kind of out, I wonder if I should maybe in the evening, especially because I bet putting these tinctures on is really hydrating for one's skin. I might actually try to put them on my hands in the evening while I sleep and maybe try layering with some stuff. Now
Yeah,
that might be a good idea to try to use them a bit, right? Instead of just
yeah,
having them
yeah.
around like a museum piece.
Yes. Have you ever tried? This is just a side thing. Have you ever tried? Do you know what lanolin is?
I've heard the term, but why don't you enlighten me?
It's what they used to use as moisturizer back in the day. It's from sheep's wool.
Oh,
It's like
cool.
the secretion of like sheep's skin into the wool to keep the wool waterproof, water resistant.
Oh, wow.
You know,
That's really cool.
um, and that kind of when you said try putting it on the hands as like a moisturizer sort of thing. For some reason, the waxy substance. It sort of occurred to me that that would be something of a similar ilk.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
So I would like to know what exactly these are infused into. You know what I mean? Like, what is the wax that they've used? Is it simply wax? Is it medical grade wax? Is it like what is it? What's going on here?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Maybe that's something we can find out.
Yes,
Mm.
but yeah, the Patchouli Noisette by Léon Demodable has with it so Noisette et Piment Italie and Patchouli Aceh Indonesia. Today, I was at my friend's house, and they're the two ingredients that come with the travel atomizer, is what I should have said.
Yeah,
And today, I was at my friend's house, and I know what noisette means. It means hazelnut, and I know what Italy means. It means Italy.
yeah.
But Piedmont, I didn't know what that meant, so we looked it up, and it means from the foothills of the mountains.
Mhm.
So this apparently is hazelnuts from the foot of the Italian Alps.
Oh, how beautiful.
So it is very particular about not just the hazelnuts, it's very particular about where the hazelnuts are from, and they're from the foothills of the Italian Alps.
So they have a specific terroir. That's lovely.
Yes. Apparently, as well, this is the first time scent has been extracted from hazelnuts, I believe. It wasn't possible before now, or it hadn't been done before now.
Oh, interesting. Do you
Um,
know if it was like a headspace reconstruction or a CO2 extraction by chance? Did they mention that?
if they did, I can't remember. I know that Remy Pulveril, who is one of the owners. I think Valerie's the owner of Les Indomitable, and I think Remy runs the house that provides the ingredients. I can't
Mm.
remember what it is. It's Le Matier's. Le Matier, forgive us, Remy. I'm sorry. It's Le Matier's something. Um, and I know that they have very like innovative new techniques and very high end ingredients. They use ultrasonic extraction for certain
Oh,
materials.
wow. Yeah.
they would extract the materials, and then to get extra out of it, they would use ultrasound to extract more, or like a different kind of material from the same old extraction technique. It was like an extra layer to their extraction. I remember them talking about that on Persolaise.
Oh yeah,
So
fabulous. And I just looked it up. It's L'Atelier Français des Matières.
that's right. I got
Is
the
his
first half right. You said it much
Yeah.
better than I did, though.
Oh, no, not at all. But, but yeah, you're right. No, so first of all, everyone should watch. Rich just did a video, I believe you posted it today, where you had your first impressions of this fragrance, and the materials that came with it. And then also you should watch, Persolaise is doing kind of a series with Remy Pulverhey, about these materials that come in Les Indémodables. And maybe I will link them in the show notes for everyone to
Well,
watch.
thank you very much. I appreciate that greatly.
So what are your impressions of the noisettes? I don't think I've ever smelled, like, I can't remember anything like that in a perfume that I've smelled. What is it like? What do you think?
Just the noisette or the whole perfume by itself?
Maybe start just with a noisette and then maybe how it smells in the perfume and then the perfume, something like that.
Okay, no problem. So the noisette, which I have right before me, and I will drop a little stick into said noisette. We will see what it has to offer. I have smelled this already, but we'll see what I get from it. I don't know what this is being dissolved down to. I doubt very much that this is neat, because this amount of, oh, I've actually done the wrong one. I beg your pardon. Um,
No worries.
this was the patchouli's. The patchouli's amazing. The patchouli's totally different as well. There's a story behind the patchouli too.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, but in fact, I'll tell you what. I'll start with the patchouli, and then we'll move. We'll save the noisette. I'll just
perfect.
be 2 minutes. So
Yeah,
the patchouli is from Sri Lanka and Indonesia, and I was watching Persolaise the other day, and Persolaise and Remy were talking about um, sourcing patchouli from Indonesia, which is probably the most common form of patchouli, Indonesian patchouli. And apparently, what happens is when it's sourced, there is just a couple of, I've reticent to call them dealers, but like suppliers is probably a better word, of patchouli in Indonesia. And what they do is they collect lots of different types of patchouli from all over the place, and they just basically put it all in a pot, and it's lots of different kinds of patchouli into one.
hmm.
Um, and so you don't get a particular strain of patchouli, or you get lots of different soil qualities that the patchouli's been grown in to make one homogeneous soup. What
Yeah,
Les and Demodabler have done is they have gone and they have found they've either set up shop in these places themselves, or they have found a supplier who gets it from one place and can supply them with patchouli of one kind, grown in much more sort of in a much more, not stable way, but in a sort of not a fair way. What's the word I'm looking for? It's
transparent in a transparent way. So
yes,
you
yeah,
you you
it's
see it
transparent.
from, yeah, the seed to the bottle. Basically, you can see the whole journey.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a good way of putting it. It's so that they can trace. It's got traceability, and there isn't this whole homogenization where everything's gone in like all into a pot, lots of different patchoulis from different areas. This is very specific patchouli from Aceh in Indonesia. They also have a Sri Lankan patchouli that they use as well. I don't know if they have combined the two of them, or if they're just using the Ache, or they've just sent the Ache version to us to
Hmm.
smell. But I do believe that there's two versions of patchouli um, in this perfume by itself. And after all of that, the smell, sorry, after that,
No,
all
it's fascinating.
the smell is very not what it's patchouli, but not as we know it, Captain. It's it's it starts off with this slightly medicinal turpentine kind of quality, like pine oil, like
Yeah.
something that you would use to clean with.
Yes.
Um, Very sort of not alcoholic, but have you ever smelled pine oil from like literally like pine oil extract, not pine
Yes.
resin, but like
Yeah.
pine oil? And when you open it, you sort of get this kind of like, wow, it's gonna it's got like an alcohol, like
Yes.
cleaning alcohol kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's super
This
terpenic.
hasn't.
It almost smells like shoe
It's
polish remover, nail polish or
absolutely,
something. Yeah.
yes, it's got that facet at the top of the ingredient.
Cool.
Um, it's got that, and then after about 5 minutes, it's that starts to burn off and wear away, and you are then into something much more recognizable as patchouli, but it's very clean. It's very, very clean. It's not this dark, deep, and the actual oil that the scent is crystal clear.
Oh, wow.
Um, it's got ever such a faint off-white, like an off-white, almost to the yellow spectrum smell about it. Not smell, color to it.
Yeah.
So it's very, very clear, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting thick, runny, gloopy, honey-esque type patchouli,
Right.
chocolatey, like melted chocolate, that kind of thing. Not a bit of it. This is um this is like it's almost like water.
Wow.
It's a little bit thicker than water, but this has the beginnings of that earthiness of patchouli,
Mm.
but it never goes fully earthy. It's like I said, it's patchouli, but not as I've ever come to as I have ever come to understand it before. It's got this slightly soily kind of vibe to it, so earthy, obviously, but it's also got a slight green facet. Um, it's got it's got something a little bit bitter cocoa, but not chocolatey. Like
Yeah.
more the texture of cocoa powder than the
Mm.
actual creamy chocolateness of it.
Yeah, I think it's
Sorry.
surprising how powdery patchouli can get, right? The people don't I think that's unexpected sometimes.
Yeah, totally. It's got this thing. It's almost ubiquitous in perfumes. You see it everywhere. Patchouli is used in everything, and you don't always smell it.
Mm.
Um, but it's in almost everything. Like
Yeah.
patchouli this, and there are then some perfumes which are patchouli centric, and then there are perfumes which have patchouli as just one of many notes, and then there are some that have got patchouli, and you think there's no way patchouli is actually in there, but yet it is. You know, it's
Absolutely.
become it's become so like entwined with perfume that like sometimes I wonder like maybe they've just said it because they've always said it, like it's got patchouli in. And nobody's actually sure whether it has got patchouli in, but it's a pretty safe bet. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it probably got patchouli in. Just say it's there, you know. But this is clean, but it's not unrefined.
Mm.
It's not sheer, but it's very clean cut.
That's
It's got
fascinating. I really wanna
it
try
is
this.
it is a very, very interesting and multifaceted and clear. Clear is probably the best way of putting it. I was talking to Jura Rose, our friend Jura Rose, and he said, "Is it like Akigala wood?" And I said, "Not the dreaded Akigala wood. That's be like Quentin Beach's like ears will have pricked up every time somebody says Akigala wood. Quentin Beach makes like $100. Um, it's like it's somewhere it's somewhere towards that kind of spectrum, but somehow you just know that this is more than that. This couldn't be replicated on the scale of a Givaudan or an IFF. That they would view this as unviable economically, because
Mm.
I imagine this has to go through a lot of process. It has to spend time being made. It smells like time and effort has been put into something.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, Akigala wood lacks that quite profoundly, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So uh, I will now. Sorry, I've just feel like I've hogged the last 10 minutes.
No, no, this is fantastic. Please keep on. Yeah.
So next, I shall dip into the Noisette Piment Italie, and this is the hazelnut. This has kind of colory. This definitely has a more yellowy color, but it's still, I would say it's clear, but with like an off yellow kind of very light hay kind of color about it. Not hazelnutty in color, but maybe of the hazelnut,
Mm.
extracted from, which is what it is, of course. Um, I took this to my friends earlier, and she swore blind she couldn't smell it, which terrified me.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
but I could. Now she is a smoker though, so I should add that. And I'm not. So I'm hoping and praying that I can smell it right now so that I can explain what it smells like. I can.
Great.
First, yes, great, thank God. Um, the first thing to note about this is just how soft it is. It's very soft. It's ghostly.
Oh, wow.
It's it's so it's definitely there, but it is very. It feels like it was there quite a while ago. And what you're getting is you are getting like even just having dipped it into the pot, pulled it out and smelling it, it's still wet. It's it's almost ghostly. It how could I put it? It
It's very
feels
delicate.
it's extremely delicate, and it's as if you approach it, it might disappear. You know, like
Yeah.
one of those things that if you look at it, it stops being there. You know,
Wow.
and what
Yeah.
it what it what it has is it definitely has that aftertaste of hazelnut about it. Like um it's not like a full on hazelnut experience. It's not like you're eating it and you've got a mouthful and it's coming at you from every angle. It's like when you breathe it in, 90% of what you're breathing in is just fresh air. And
Hmm.
then after a couple of seconds, you get the afterthought, the after hit of the hazelnut, and it smells round. There's no sharp edges to this whatsoever. There's no resistance to this when you smell it. There's no jarring. There's no there's no sort of friction to it. It's smooth. It's creamy. It's very it's very light brown. It's got that kind of sunshine on a hazelnut kind of look to it, like old furniture, like light brown kind of thing. Um,
That's an amazing description. It sounds
it's it
beautiful.
it is absolutely. I was saying to my friend today, she couldn't smell it, so it was a tragedy. But I was saying to her, I could wear this simply by itself. And she was like, well, there's no point because you can't smell it. I was like, you can't smell it. I can smell it. I'm sure I can smell it. Please let it be me smelling it, and I'm not just imagining this. But it's got that kind of imagine Nutella without the chocolate, and
Yeah.
it's got that aftertaste. Because I was one of the things I feared about this perfume was that it would smell like Nutella, you know.
Yeah.
Um, because of the patchouli with the chocolate
Yeah.
and the hazelnut, and just mixing the two and how it would come off. But that, I'll tell you what, that is a fear I would have with a different brand. With Les and Demodable, it sort of speaks to how talented how everything has sort of come together in that company for it to be how it is now. The creative direction, the will to do things in a certain way, and the execution as well. The imagination, the drive, and the execution to do these things has resulted in a perfume which could easily smell like Nutella, but doesn't. I will come on to what the perfume actually smells like. Anon, if you give us 2 seconds, I shall hydrate.
Absolutely. No, I'm super
Oh,
curious now to see how that haunting, ghostly, soft, delicate noisette pairs with that. You know, patchouli is a traditionally quite powerful note, even though this version, like you said, is very clean, very articulate. Um, I'm super curious to see how they pair up, and especially to know, like, I'm wondering the noisette, what the how long it lasts and kind of where it shows up in the fragrance and how volatile it is. So I'm
yeah.
absolutely fascinated to see what you think of the fragrance. Those elements, how they come together.
Yes. Fortunately for us, and what you've just said is a perfect segue, as I have just sprayed it on fresh on my right hand, but on my left hand is an 9 hour dry down. It's
Ooh,
8:30 now, and I sprayed it on my hand. Did my video at 11:30, so that's 11:30 when I did my video today, and sprayed it on my left hand. And it's 8:30 at night now, and I've just sprayed it on my right hand. So we have the two. I will tell you what it's like fresh on my hand, and then I will go to my left hand, and we will see what the dry down's like. And I've been sniffing it in between, so I can tell you how it gets from the right hand to the left hand over the
oh,
course of 9 hours.
perfect. Yeah.
So it starts off with it starts off with that terpenic, that 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 pine oil, plant-based, anti-fungal, antibacterial, anti-insect kind of natural, um, natural like barrier, kind of like cleansed kind of feel. It's got a slightly woody tone to it.
Mm.
So there's a do I want to say like a cedar kind of thing, but only very lightly. Only very
Yeah,
lightly. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some cedar in here, trying to round out that sort of terpenic thing at the top.
sure.
Um, it's got a slightly papery vibe, but the patchouli's definitely there. For the first few minutes, the hazelnut is nowhere to be seen. If I had to give like a pyramid, I would say that there's patchouli at the top, there's cedar, and there is something ever so slightly green, and it could be like, um, I don't know if it's like a vetiver, or if it's like this kind of, or if it's just like a facet of the patchouli, which is being highlighted by um, some other kind of notes that are in it. I very much doubt there's only two ingredients in this perfume.
Right.
Um, so I think there's some cedar in here. There's a slightly papery kind of vibe. It's not pencil shavings. Um, But after that kind of terpenic thing burns off a little, you start to get this kind of inference of the the I don't know if you ever do this, but like with certain notes and certain perfumes, there's like colors associated, and I always associate patchouli with like a brown kind of color.
Yes.
Um, and this hazelnut, what I feel like you don't smell it at first, but it like the green of the patchouli sort of like leads into this brownness, and it starts to darken down. It goes from this quite brilliant, um, almost silver white sort of thing, and turns into this kind of green, and it's not profoundly green, but it's there. And as the green becomes more and more pronounced, the silvery kind of whiteness dies back, that kind of brilliance dries back, and then you start to get more what you recognize as a patchouli fragrance. Um, so I know that's what I get up to this point.
Yeah.
I know from wearing it earlier where it goes after this, that kind of terpenic, cleaning, medicinal quality at the top disappears after 5 or 10 minutes. Oh, sorry. And it it kind of settles into the mid, which is like the cedar kind of recedes from like the patchouli, and the patchouli's left there with this kind of ever strengthening. It doesn't, the hazelnut does not detract from the patchouli, it only adds to the whole.
Wow.
So you've got this, the perfume actually gets bigger in the middle. So it's kind of like the perfume's kind of like pear shaped, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, it's very pointed and sharp at the top, and then it spreads outwards and becomes more diffuse in the middle, but it also grows in size and mass and density, as the hazelnut starts to become more apparent. I don't want to say there's like this kind of orange note in it, but there's this kind of, it goes along with like the brown and the green. So you would have like the green on one side, you would have the brown in the middle, and then there would be like this kind of like orangey hue to one
Mm.
side. Doesn't stay around for very long. The hazelnut, I feel like that's like the hazelnut spreading its wings a bit.
Yeah.
So you've got the hazelnut, which becomes more and more pronounced as the fragrance comes on. But if you were to walk up to somebody in the street and ask them what they were wearing, and they were wearing this, and you didn't know it was this, you wouldn't recognize it as hazelnut. You
Hmm.
would recognize it as like this kind of warm, brown, natural kind of forest, like forest in autumn when the leaves are falling off. Like there's no green.
Yeah.
There's more of this kind of like nature, like there's more of this kind of natural wheat. That I don't know, like
No, that makes sense. Like, 'cause in the fall, there is that kind of background of, um, almost as if there's like a smoky roasted kind of, like cereals, right? Like grain
yeah,
harvested kind of, just warm general background. Like I totally get that. Yeah, and it's
yeah,
in the
like
air
like
in the fall.
green, yeah, like greens turn into browns and reds. It's
Yeah.
got that. Yeah, you're right about the air in the fall. Um, it's got it's got that kind of. Is it smoky? It's maybe a touch. It's not a smoky fragrance, but it might have this touch of like smoke from the patchouli. Like this kind of like desiccated brown kind of
Mm,
smell. I felt like I've gone through a journey in time and space here.
that's so cool.
Just describing the fragrance. It's that's kind of like the first 10 minutes of the fragrance. What you get after that is development, but at a much slower rate. Um, and after about 3 to 4 hours, you get from where we were with this kind of green, brown, reddy, orange kind of like mix to to something a lot more familiar with like the patchouli, and in that it is not something you've smelled before, because I do think this is quite different to most patchoulis, in that it's not like a patchouli sandalwood or a patchouli vanilla. It's not thick and rich and creamy, but it's also not like Akigala wood, where it's double clean and it's very sheer and shiny. It's somewhere in between those. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and what you get from it at the end, or after about 3 to 4 hours to the end, is this very stable, strong, not necessarily strong in projection, but strong in structure, kind of, kind of, how can I put it? It feels like a bit like a framework or a scaffold. You
Yeah.
know, there are like, it's sturdy and it's there, but it's also got some transparency to it as well. You can see through to the other side of the perfume. You know, it's got this kind of, it's got this kind of, it's got this kind of, I suppose transparency is the best word for it. Um, so if you were looking at it, if it was something visible, you'd be able to see what was behind it. Like you can smell like your own skin through the perfume, but it's held up by the perfume.
This really sounds just so complex and interesting and beautiful. I'm going to ask you, is it full bottle worthy? And in terms of the other Les Indemodables fragrances, where do you think it ranks?
Oof. Full bottle worthy. I've already bought one.
So yes,
Um,
okay.
yes, yes, it is. Yes, I've already bought one. I bought mine from Saint Celier in England, who is owned by the wonderful Brooke Belladonna. Um,
She's great. Yeah.
she is fantastic. She's very
So
knowledgeable as
smart.
well.
Yeah. So
She
articulate, so
puts up,
smart.
yeah, absolutely, and she's got a real passion for fragrance, which for me is half the battle.
Yeah.
And then she combines it with knowing her stuff like the back of her hand, and she puts up with my inane questioning. I ask pointless questions, and I ask the same question in five different ways, and she's never told me where to stick it. And she puts up with it, and I can't help but love her. So thank you very much. There are good people out there who will put up with it. And I got this today. She was good enough to part with a decant, because she got her stock in last week, and it arrived today. And I mean, I also got this travel atomizer from the brand itself. Um, so I was convinced. I was convinced after about 2 hours. I mean, it
Nice.
wasn't even. I say it was 2 hours. It wasn't even 2 hours. I knew that what was going to happen was, if I smelled it and I didn't hate it, there was a good chance I was going to buy it, because I really like patchouli fragrances. And patchouli is one of those things that there's so many of them, and there's so much variety available, that
Yeah.
even if it's not an instant love, that if you like patchouli, which I do, I've got quite a few patchouli fragrances. Um, I've got quite a few patchouli fragrances, and I've got quite a few Les Indomitable fragrances. But there are some that what'll happen is that they will just grow. For me, I've never had a patchouli fragrance that was patchouli centric, and I've come to dislike it more.
Mm,
So I know if I like it almost immediately, like I'm gonna like it more as time goes on.
yeah.
And plus it was she had a sale on for people who are subscribed to her newsletter today, and it's just for one day. So I thought I'm going to take advantage of that, and I got my bottle with a pretty significant discount, which I was really pleased with.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and that just worked out fabulously. So
Absolutely.
where would you rank it among, because I don't know if you smelled every single Les Indemodable release,
Have
but oh, great. So where would you rank it if you had to rank it? Would it be the best you've ever smelled? Is it top three? Is it like, where would you put it?
I wouldn't say it was the best I've smelled because the reason I don't think it's the best I've smelled is because like Rose de Jamal is one of the best smelling perfumes I've ever smelled. It's not necessarily my favorite perfume, but as a perfume, I absolutely love it. As like a smell, it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. I would say Rose de Jamal is probably my favorite. Um, I would say that Vanille Havane, as cliche as that is probably my second favorite.
Well, that's a great fragrance.
And it's gorgeous. It's really good.
Yeah.
Um, and then I would say, I would say, so I've got six already, and Patchouli Noisette is number seven. Um, I would say Rose de Jamal is first. I would say Vanille Havana second. I would say Oriental Velours is third.
Mm,
Oriental Velours is absolutely gorgeous.
yeah.
Um, and then I would say it's a tie between Patchouli Noisette and Ambra Supreme.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Um,
you're ranking it with Amber Supreme, so it's pretty great.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
great. It's just
Yeah.
that those other two are like astonishing. Like, I mean, for me, Rose de Jamal is, and it's just a personal thing. This doesn't it doesn't really mean anything to anybody apart from me.
True.
That I think Rose de Jamal is spectacularly good. It I, oh, it's like I could smell that on me or anyone else anytime. It's one of those fragrances that I look at and I think, should I wear that? And then I think, well, what am I doing today? And what am I going to look like today? Do I do I deserve to wear this today?
Yeah. No, I
Should
get
I
it.
like? I feel like an imposter sometimes when I wear it. It's that good for
Yeah.
me. I
Yeah.
love it. It's gorgeous. So I would say it's there with Ambra Supreme, and then I've got the two colognes as well, which are
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
Oh my gosh. I've been wearing those 2 colognes, like, for days and days and days now. Escalon AT. Oh my gosh, like, I've just been drowning in myself in that lately because of the hot weather here. It's so beautiful. Yeah,
Just
they're
right. The
both
thing
great.
is with that, I don't know if you've ever noticed that I get like 4 hours, 5 hours of like decent decent performance out of that. Like for the first 2, 3 hours, I can really smell that.
Yeah.
And then it's still there after like 4 or 5 hours. And
Yeah.
for the price, it's like so the Les Indomitable bottles are 50 mil, apart from the colognes, which are 100 mil, and the 100 mils are nearly half the price of the 50 mils. So actually, you're getting 4 times as much when you buy the colognes, because they're half the price and twice the size,
And they're
you know?
fantastic. Yes.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
glorious. They're absolutely glorious. The Escalon Indonesian is absolutely fabulous as well.
Yes.
But I've got to be honest, that Escalon Haiti, it's got that beautiful green vetiver sort of thing going on.
Yeah. It's so
It,
good.
it's so good. It is absolutely so good.
Well, fabulous. I'm so excited to hear your take on this. I'm absolutely going to try this fragrance as soon as I possibly can. I'm so excited. Tell me about your next new one.
Oh my God, my next new one. Is there any chance I could pop to the bathroom
Oh,
before
sure.
I start
Yes. And
talking
I
about it?
I actually have a
Yeah.
couple new ones too to talk about. So that's perfect. I will go ahead and start with a new 2023 release that I'm absolutely in love with is by Darren Allen. Darren Allen Perfumes. Darren Allen is a artisanal independent perfumer here in the United States, and this perfume is called Jonquille. It is delicate and a really spring. It's a fragrance that really embodies spring. The featured notes are jonquil and narcissus. They're made with jonquil and narcissus absolutes, supported by stemmy galbanum and a little bit of mimosa, which brings a little bit of sweetness to it. There's also a little bit of ambrette seed, as well as angelica root and a muscacord. And for me, the angelica root is really interesting and kind of a really cool twist on this kind of gorgeous combination of ingredients, which can read a little classical, but that's okay. So one thing that Darren Allen does that's so brilliant that I love in his work is he has spent a lot of time studying classical structures, classical perfumery, and especially classic de Laire bases, which he has studied and then reconstructed, especially creating his own materials, like tincturing his own oak moss, tincturing his own civet, et cetera, et cetera. And so he spent a long time doing that. And then now he's kind of evolved by creating his own perfumes, like with lots of new twists and using modern materials and GCMS analysis and all kinds of cool stuff. And this fragrance just blew me away. Just like Rich Mitch was saying that he tried his new perfume and knew almost instantaneously, I must own a full bottle of this. The same thing happened with me and Jonquille. This is a limited edition fragrance, I believe, because so many of the materials were tinctured by Darren Allen himself. So once those materials are gone, they're gone. It's only available in 10 milliliter bottles, so it's not a huge investment, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I ended up actually purchasing, I think, 3 bottles just for myself, and I'm probably going to end up buying more. Um, I think it's just $45 for a 10 milliliter bottle of something that is beautiful. If you love narcissus like I do, which is a really complex, haunting flower with a touch of green to it, it's unusual. It's an unusual flower. And for me, it's the best. It's rare, kind of hard to find narcissus centered fragrances because narcissus is difficult to work with. Um, and this is just absolutely gorgeous. I definitely recommend it. And it comes in this cute little 10 milliliter travel spray bottle, and I adore it. It's perfect, and it's way
Nice.
yeah, definitely recommend it. So, do you know Darren
That's
Allen, Duck? Have you discovered any of his fragrances?
I know who Darren Allen is. There's a lot of talk about him at the minute in the community, and I reached out to him, but he does not ship to the UK, which is very unfortunate because I did
Dommage.
try and get a sample set. Um,
Yeah.
so unfortunately for me, it'll be a while before I can smell them unless I can get someone to ship them over here. And I have heard a lot of good things from a lot of different people actually. So that's usually a good sign.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. He's great. And especially like we were talking about in the future, if you kind of look to that classicism, then I think you will love him really just at first sniff. Because he like his kind of mentality is, well, what would my favorite classical fragrances smell like if I was like what would my fragrances be like if I was creating them in 1940, in 1920, in 1950, in 1980? What would my favorite classical fragrances smell like if I could smell them when they were just made, instead of
Yeah.
getting these vintage bottles that have aged, right, and have
Yes.
obviously evolved in ways, right? And so I think you like his house style in general. And we'll have to figure out how to get you samples somehow. We'll do that. We'll figure it
Yes.
out. Yeah, because they're really awesome, like truly awesome.
Yeah. So that was Jean Keel,
Yeah.
wasn't it? So what was the other one you were going to talk about?
Oh, so and then I also have another kind of independent artisanal house called Wit and West. And Whitney Swales is the perfumer, and she is an all natural perfumer. And she has this, it's gosh, it's so hard to be an all natural perfumer, to not work in mixed media, to not use those isolated molecules and this
Yeah.
modern chemistry to really give your perfume structure, et cetera. And so the work that she produces a lot like Hiram Green and others like that, that is so excellent. I'm just always kind of shocked by like, whoa, you achieved this with only natural materials? Like that's
Yeah.
amazing, right? And I very rarely like all natural perfumers. And so I'm just really impressed with her work. And she released this just small, again, a very small run, not many bottles are available, called the Violeteer. And it's named after a kind of hummingbird. But what she did is she took iris, so not orris root, not the root, but the actual iris flowers. It's actually a misnomer that iris flowers don't produce scent, because they do, especially the flowers in the American West, which is different. They're
Okay.
different. They're different species than the kinds in Europe, which I believe are mute. But in the American West, the violet flowers do produce a scent. And they kind of,
Okay.
they vary wildly. They can be really like soft and fruity and berry like to something that's a bit rancid, right? And it's
Yeah.
interesting because, and they're not cultivated regularly, because you can have one flower that is completely mute, and right next to it in the same clump you can have a flower that's just full of fragrant and giving off so much scent. So, and because it's unpredictable like that, that's why they're not really cultivated for their fragrance. But Whitney was like, well, I'm going to grow them, and I'm going to make a perfume for them. And she did an enfleurage. So she grew a bunch of irises in her backyard, did an enfleurage with them, and it's amazing. So it's an iris, like it's an iris centered fragrance, where it's the actual fragrance of the iris flowers. That's the focus of the fragrance. And then it's a floral bouquet, right? So there are other flowers in there that play a supporting role, but it's this really pretty, really soft, fruity, sweet, floral fragrance. I don't know if you would like it, because it is sweet and floral in the way that I think that generally you dislike, honestly. Um, but if you like orris, you might be curious about it, because
Yeah.
it does actually have some facets of the orris root, the smell of the iris. But it's kind of without that powderiness, really. So super fascinating.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
these there are a lot. There has been a huge proliferation, especially in North America, of of indie houses. What is like I think indie houses is like an umbrella term for not. I don't want to use like the letters DIY, but
Yeah.
it's for me. It's like that. It's that American spirit of I will do this myself. And that's why I think there's so many North American indie and natural perfumers, these people who think, screw the big companies, I will get up and I will do this myself on my own initiative. And it's absolutely it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. No, 100%. And because of that American spirit of, quite honestly, F the government is definitely part of
Yeah,
like that cowboy attitude. We have significantly less regulation when it comes to DIY. Like we have a lot of people who homeschool their children, which can be problematic, right? We have a lot of
yeah,
people who it's really easy to start your own small business here. It's really easy to raise your own food here. Like there's just a lot less regulation than there is in Europe, for good and bad, right?
yeah,
And so because of that, yeah, we just have a ton of small independent perfumers that do experiments like this, that have this like, I'm just reading off the website here to make sure I have all the facts right. So it's bearded iris blooms with lavender, rose, and mimosa, um, and I think and with tonka bean, frankincense, and oak moss in the base. But it's really
okay.
that iris enfleurage extrait that's really the star of the fragrance. That's so unusual and so cool that I just think everyone should experience, because it's just so rare. And you're right, it's that cowboy attitude of, well, I'm just going to do whatever I want, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's that kind of I'm going to tackle this problem. Nobody's coming to do it for me. I will do it myself, and I will do it or be damned, And it's amazing, I think that principle, that in principle, is a pretty amazing sort of thing. Um, I have on my channel over the last year, 18 months, been going through, like I said at the beginning, I've been going through a lot of sample sets, and I've been trying to discover, because I'm disillusioned quite a lot with what is available at the department store and what's being fed to us um, in the modern perfume industry, that I've decided to look outside the box and try all these different niche and indie brands. Couple of them I have bought full bottles, but for the amount of perfumes that I've sampled, I haven't. Which brings me on to my latest kind of exploration series, which was Anna's Warikina.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, Anna's Warikina is an all-natural perfumer as well, she claims, which
Mad
is
respect. Like, I can't believe people do that. It seems the more I learn about perfume, the more I realize how difficult that is. So mad
yeah,
respect, because it's
yeah,
honestly, the results are often they're often difficult to me, at least personally. And so when someone
yeah,
can really make something beautiful, wow, just wow. That's a
yeah.
great
I would,
series of videos you made. Sorry.
yes, no, thank you. It's I've got all the first impressions in like playlists and stuff, and I go back and watch them from time to time. And when when I'm describing them, it's like I can hear my own words and I can remember what they smelled like to me at the time. That's kind of how I like can track them and stuff. The Anna's Warikinas, the thing I found with all natural perfume is, you're right. I respect the principle and the idea behind it. I'm only going to use natural ingredients. And when somebody makes something great from an all natural product, it's incredibly impressive. I have found that almost all of the perfumes I've tried so far haven't been something that I would buy a full bottle of. Um, the Anna's Warikanas are 100 130 or £140 for 15 ml or 10 ml. Um, that's a lot of money. The sample set, I got 10 samples. No, I got 10 samples plus a free sample, and I paid like £105, which is a pound per which is £10 per sample, which is £10 per milliliter. That is a big, big ask for anybody. And there's a
Yeah, it
couple
really
in
is.
there. I'm gonna do my final impressions tomorrow, so we will see. But I've been testing someone's skin, and there are some that are really good, and I would be a lot more inclined to buy them if not for the price.
Yeah, and it's always hard to judge, right? Value, especially once, like you and I, once you really have a quite a big collection, right?
Yeah,
Is how much you want to invest in something new, and the quality becomes super important. Um,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. But I can't wait to see
It
your video tomorrow. I can't. Really look forward to watching it, and we'll link your other videos of from her house below. Also, definitely.
yes. Thank you very much. It's I had this kind of thought at some point in the last year or so that I was going to try not to put not as much new money into my collection, and I was going to try and sell the things that I wasn't wearing and use that money to put back into the collection if I was going to buy anything, you know. So I've got this kind of, like you say, you don't want to spend money on things that don't that aren't going to improve the collection anymore.
Yeah.
The value aspect is big, but like I say, it's very hard to get into my collection now, I feel.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
And it's kind of the
but
way it should be, I think, at a certain point, you know?
uh, absolutely, excuse me. I think that value and criteria for getting into like your collection once it gets to a certain size is a topic you could use on a podcast, like a whole podcast on it, if you
Absolutely.
wanted to.
We should talk about that in the future. You should come back on and we should discuss it. I'd love to know your thoughts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Little
I
planet.
would be
Yeah.
honest to. The perfume you asked about before, I don't know how much time you've got left. I
Oh,
will try
we
and
can
be
keep,
cons
keep going. Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. And then
I was
we'll do
I'll
that
be
perfume and
considerably
then yeah.
briefer.
Okay.
I'll be considerably briefer this time. The other perfume I am looking at is from the house of James Healy, and this is Cologne Aficionale. This is his 2023 release, and I was directed to this. I wasn't directed to it. I was made aware of it by one of my friends who was like on the Get in my live stream chat and stuff. He's called DJ, and he said, "Oh, Healy's got a new one coming out." And I was like, "Well, I like Healy. I've got a bottle from Healy. It's Montfresh, which is a mint fragrance. I was influenced by Robes Away to buy Montfresh because it's a mint, and I smelled it first time, loved it, beautiful. I'm buying that." And so I've always kept an eye on Healy. I've smelled Cardinal and I've smelled Sacre and I've smelled a couple of other ones, and they're really good. Um, the incenses I didn't buy because I managed to get Lavs from
Yeah.
Filippo Sorcinelli, which is I love that. Um,
I think that's a great point because that the incense fragrance by Healy, which I love, I've put off buying because I happened to find another incense fragrance that I like just a little more, but it's a
yeah,
fantastic. I think I still might actually get a bottle of that incense fragrance by Healy one day. Once I find it
yeah,
at a good price, maybe once I find that at a discount or find a used one, so it's still on my radar. But that Labs, man, that's special. Yeah, I
yeah.
understand.
The Filippo Sorcinelli is a pretty great
Yeah,
house,
yeah,
especially for incense. But the Healy that I have taken a time to is called Cologne Aficionale, and um, it has a kind of, to me, I think I said this to you before we started recording. For me, this has kind of air to it of Eau Sauvage. I think I said to you that it could be the air to Eau Sauvage, which is an outrageous statement to
that is
say, but
outrageous. Yeah, I'm fascinated by yeah, keep talking. I'm fascinated by this fragrance.
it has got this kind of dryness and greenness at the top, um, that has this punch. Um, it has this kind of what have you got? It's got it's well, I know one of the notes is French soap. Now, to me, it smells a lot like to me it smells a lot like Imperial leather soap. Have you ever smelled that?
Yes, and actually, I know that that soap in particular is something called Savon de Marseille. It's like a particular kind of really hard French soap that's usually found in like luxury hotels, etc. And it's a very distinct smell that is breathtakingly gorgeous, and I adore it. So I think I know
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, it has got this kind of high end, uber clean, just cleaned. No, it's not fresh out the shower. To me, when I hear the words fresh out the shower now, I think of blue fragrances. But imagine you were in a really high-end French restaurant, not a French restaurant. You're having a shower in a French restaurant. You've got bigger problems. There's a if you're in a high-end French hotel and they did like complimentary soaps,
Yes.
and they had employed somebody to go around. They had like a deal with a really like niche, almost unheard of, but high quality soap maker, you know,
Yeah,
and it's got that kind of it's got that kind of green, clean aspect to it
I love
that
it.
is it's gorgeous. It's also to me got this kind of oak moss galbanum kind of thing, but in the most sort of in the most kind of vintage way. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
who will say that oak moss isn't used these days, not because it's been banned, not because it's had the nuts chopped off it, not because it's dangerous, but because it's out of fashion.
Yeah.
And when I smell this perfume, I can believe it. Because to me, this fragrance is the 1970s, the late 1960s, that sort of 15-year period between the late 1960s and the early to mid 1980s, when you had things like Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, where you had Azaro Pour Homme, where you had Eau Sauvage, you know, where these fragrances came out and they were squeaky clean. They were freshly minted, triple milled soap that was scented with rosemary and galbanum and oak moss, this green kind of. I don't know if you've ever had that. I might be betraying the fact that like I was like a stupid boy. I don't know if you've ever had soap in your mouth. Have
I
you ever
have
got
not.
like soap in your mouth? Well, I've had soap like suds and like soap in my mouth, and it dries your mouth out. It dries your tongue
Huh.
out. There wasn't like somebody washing my mouth out with soap. I was just like I was in the bath and like some soap got
Yeah.
in my
I
mouth.
think that happens to
Uh,
everyone in the shower from time to time. Yeah.
yeah, and it's sort of it's got this it's got this kind of it's got this kind of really infinitely like like the top layer of your skin has been almost like cleaned off. It's like brand new
Yeah.
kind of. I don't want to make it sound unpleasant because that makes it sound a little unpleasant, but it's got this kind of exfoliated kind of cleanliness to it. It's like you feel brand new when you put this on. you
No, for
know
sure. I mean, I think there's that old school, and it's specifically French soap, like hard old school French soap, from like it feels like it's the 70s, right? Like grandma's generation, 60s,
yeah,
70s, that you feel super clean without any residue. Where it's like I feel like a lot of modern soaps, they kind of leave like a plasticky residue or something lotiony on your skin, but this just feels clean, clean. I know
yeah,
exactly what you
this is
mean.
like
Yeah.
yeah, this is like the days before Dove when they put like moisturizing agents in. This feels
Yeah.
like you've been demoisturized. you
Yeah.
know it's almost got that kind of thing to it, but it really does have this kind of green, clean sort of like soap that's not particularly good for your skin, but that you're clean kind of thing to it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this sounds I okay, I'm gonna have to try all of these. But this one just sounds so perfect for summer. I love it. Sounds like a great like white t-shirt fragrance also.
Yes, that's a white shirt, white t-shirt kind of thing. You will smell clean. You will smell. I don't want to say like a boss fragrance, but you'll smell like you've got responsibility and you're
Mm.
fine with having responsibility.
Yeah.
You'll smell like a mature adult. You know,
Yeah. Sometimes
it's
you need
not
that.
some. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You need that just to remind yourself that it is in fact, as you get older, you realize like, God, this is the age of people that run the world now, like the presidents and the prime ministers and the
Yeah.
and the like the teachers and stuff like that. That when you're a kid, you think, oh, the adult will help, you know. Like I've
Right.
fallen over and scratched my knee. There'll be an adult in a minute who'll come along and make it better, you know. And then when you are the adult and you see a kid fall over and scratch their knee, you're like, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do? This fragrance makes you feel as though you know exactly what to do. You know, you are
Absolutely.
the adult in the room, and it's amazing. And it's like you say, it'd be brilliant for summer in that it's dry and it feels as though it would like stop you from like perspiring,
Yeah.
and the performance on it's fantastic. I've been sampling it. I often do this with samples. I'll put them on at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, so I can get like a good 2 or 3 hours before I go to sleep. This stuff is still on my skin when I wake up the next morning.
Oh, nice. That's
It it
fantastic.
it is a big unit. your pardon. And they are the fragrances from 2023 that I am particularly excited about at the minute.
They all sound just lovely, like really lovely discoveries. And I know that the past couple years have been, there have been some good things, but there's also been a lot of chaff
Yeah,
in there with the wheat. Just there's just been a lot, just so much. It's hard to kind of it's hard to sift through just the amount of fragrances that have come out. And I know that's just
yeah,
going to continue, but thank you so much for pointing us out to these three. They really sound like crown jewels of fragrances, and I can't wait to try them. So thank you so much, Duck. And everyone go check out Rich Mitch, check out his YouTube channel, check out his videos. And Rich, just for people who are listening that might not have their screen open in front of us, would you like to give people directions on like maybe how to find you, your YouTube channel and such?
my YouTube channel, if you go onto YouTube and just search Rich Mitch, two distinct words, Rich Mitch and fragrance. If you just put Rich Mitch fragrance into YouTube, you should be able to find it. I have a duck as an icon. It was just, I, do you remember Katy Perry when she did that live concert and she had the dancing sharks?
Yes, I
Right?
do.
That used to be my avatar. One of those sharks was one of my avatar, and then I was like, for some reason, I thought to myself that might be a little bit threatening. So I thought, which is not some. I was never threatened by those sharks personally, but then I thought, screw it. And then one day I saw a picture of the giant rubber duck in, I think it was Toronto Harbor, or was it like
I don't remember.
yeah, it was somewhere, and I just saw it against the skyline, and I was like, "That's a bit of me." That so
That's fabulous.
that is how you will find us, the giant rubber duck.
Duck
That
is
is me.
perfect. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yes,
Well, thank
yes.
you so much for joining me today to talk about fragrance and the fragrance community. Thank you so much. We'll definitely have to come back on and talk about many, many other things. And I think we'll have to go ahead and say goodbye for now, but we'll be back again soon. And thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.